In this program, we're going to learn how to use methods while we also check out some musical instruments. So methods are going to help us with a divide and conquer approach to programming, and they're very useful when we have to reuse code, so we don't have to keep typing the same stuff over and over and over and over again. We've got some audio, as you can see in the resources here. I've had the resources tab already open to show you that we've already got some pictures and some audio files ready to go. We do have to make a little bit of an adjustment here with Visual C#, so I'm going to go up here to Project and down to the Properties, and in the resources, I'm sorry you can't see everything over here on the left, I'm going to change this to the audio and highlight all of these. Over here in these properties, persistence says linked at compile time. We want to change this to embedded in the .resx, and that should help us out. All right. Well, let's first check out drums. There are three things we want to have happen when we click on the drums button. We want a picture of the drums to show up here, or an image of the drums, a label describing drums, and then we want some sound to play. For now, I'll write it inside VTN drums. That's how you're used to doing it. So we'll have it display drums. So that's our picture box. And we want this one right here. We'll check this out right now and make sure that actually happens. It does. So in addition to displaying the drums, we want some kind of a message to show up. So some information about the drums. And we'll put in LBL information. That's where you'll find the drums, is in the percussion section. Let's see if this part works. It does. And now we want to try to get some audio to play. We're going to need to use another thing up here. We're going to using system.media. Make sure you put a semicolon there. That's going to allow us to actually play the sounds. So play the drums. And now we'll go sound player. Call it whatever you want. I'll call it drum sound, I guess. Equals new sound player. And we'll go with properties dot resources dot drum sound. And then I'll do drum sound dot play. And there are several choices here. Play, play looping, play sync. Looping is going to make it go over and over again. We're just going to play. Let's check this out. There you go. Kind of some cheap, cheesy drums, but there it is. Now, this is all inside the BTN Drums Click event. But I've got plans to use this same code over and over again with some more buttons that I haven't created yet. And I don't want to copy and paste it or retype it. It's better to put it inside one block of code. So I'm going to instead create another method. So far in our studies, every method has been created for us by Visual C#. But we're going to create our own methods now. So I'll come up here. I could do it at the bottom or really wherever. And I'm going to start with private. That means that other classes can't access it. It's going to be void because it doesn't return anything. That will make more sense later in the chapter. And I'll call it show drums, play drums, or something about the drums. I guess I'll go with show drums. And you could start with a capital S or you could start with a lowercase s. I've seen it both ways. You notice these other methods start with a capital B for BTN, even though we labeled them with a lowercase btn. So you can go either way with this. I'm going to put blank parentheses there, and then braces. Notice there's no semicolon at the end of this header, just like there weren't semicolons at the end of these headers either. All right, I'm going to take this code here, copy it, and paste it inside show drums. And then back here, I don't need this stuff. I'm just going to activate the show drums method. Like that. Now, let's see what happens. Same thing. I'll put a breakpoint in to show you really what is going on. Sorry, the breakpoint is going to be off on the side of the screen where you can't see it. But there it is, ready to go. I'll start the program, and when I click on the drums, we're here, and then we'll take a step, and the program is suspended right here on this show drums method call, calling a method or activating a method. The method show drums gets called or activated, and notice we're now up here in the show drums method. And we run through everything. That message will come up a lot. Yes, we're okay. And keep going, and notice we finally come back here. Once this method ends, we're right back where we were suspended earlier in BTN's drum click. So the method is called or activated here. The action is suspended here while this method runs, and then we come back when the method is done. We're right back where it got suspended when show drums was called. We have 3 more instruments to go. Another one is guitar. I'm going to create a method for the guitar called show guitar. So private void, because it won't return anything. Again, that will make more sense later in the chapter. Show guitar. It's going to basically do all these things. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. And instead of displaying the drums, it's going to display a guitar. That one. I'll change its information. The guitar is a string instrument. And I want to have a guitar sound. Let's see if that's inside the resources. There it is. And so instead I'll call this guitar sound, guitar file. You can just call it audio if you want. It doesn't really matter what you call it, as long as this matches on the next line down to activate the play method for it. Now I'll go to this button click event for BTN guitar and just call or activate the method show guitar. Let's check it out. Oh, that's a guitar. We're going to do the same thing for 2 more instruments, the trombone and the saxophone. I encourage you to pause the video while you do that, because I'm going to pause the video and do it myself. So you write those 2 methods on your own and then activate them inside the button click events. Alright, we've got all our methods written, and I changed the documentation in the guitar method that I forgot to change before that little break. It still said drums, now it says guitar. But there are 4 methods for the 4 instruments, and each one of them gets activated when a button is clicked. You've tested yours, I hope. I'll test mine very quickly. There's the drums, guitar, saxophone, and trombone, the most important instrument in the band. I told you that one of the advantages of having this code written in these blocks of methods is that it makes it very easy to reuse them. We don't have to copy and paste or constantly type stuff over and over again. Anytime we want to play the drums and show the drums, or a guitar, or a saxophone, or a trombone, we simply call or activate these methods. So let me go back to the design and put in another button. I will copy this button, and I'll use Control V. I think that works better. I'll change its name to BTN All. And for its text, I'll say to play all. So when this button is pressed, we want all the instruments to play one at a time. I'll say the documentation on this. So if we want to start with the drums, I'll call or activate the show drums method. Because of the way this is going, I am going to make a message box pop up and just have it say something about the drums. I'll just put drums. That will pause the program for a moment. And then I will have it play the saxophone. And I'll make a message box show up for it. Something about the saxophone. And maybe we like the saxophone so much we just have it happen all over again. So I will copy those 2 lines of code and just paste them so the saxophone happens twice in a row. Then we'll play the trombone. I'll have a message box show up explaining that that's a trombone. And then we'll show the guitar. And make this say guitar. You can really do whatever you want here. And we'll make the trombone show up again. It saves us so much code to not have to retype all the stuff for the drums and the saxophone all over again, the trombone all over again, the guitar. We've got it in one spot, and we just activate it or call it when we need it. So check out what happens when we play all. There's the drums, saxophone, saxophone again, the trombone, guitar, and the trombone again. So these methods have saved us a lot of code. It's much shorter to read, and in fact it's way easier to read. Any of your friends, even if they don't know anything about computer science, would look at this method and say, oh, looks like it's going to play drums and saxophone twice, trombone, guitar, and trombone again. And they'd be right. How it happens, they don't really know, but it's pretty easy to read here. And again, we don't repeat ourselves. That's a key thing in computer science that you're ready to learn now. When you find yourself repeating yourself a lot with the same blocks of code, especially if you find yourself using copy and paste more than 2 or 3 times, that's when you need to start thinking about implementing methods.